Sally, that girl. Sally, that girl. 1, 2, 3, and I woke up early this morning and I went to the 5 and dime. I saw this pretty young lady that was real fine. I tapped her on the shoulder and said, "Excuse me, ma'am." She pulled out her pants and said, "Try please, ma'am." Whoa, Sally, that girl.
Focusing.